him of his hand, and he laid him down. And he kissed his mother's tear-stained cheek, and he turned around, put his back to everything familiar and everyone familiar, to chase after that voice. The voice led him down a path, narrow, often lonely, an uncharted path of selfless obedience. And he climbed that path with heart ablaze. And it led him through a river called Jordan. And when he passed through it, the sky broke open, and the Spirit of God descended upon him to be his companion along the journey. Voice, that familiar voice rang out, "This is my son, my beloved son, with whom I am well pleased." And the Spirit, his companion, led him along that path, led him into the midst of the desert for 40 days, led him into the very presence of the evil one, who over and over tried to tempt him to step off of the path for another. And always the temptation was for self-preservation. The temptation was for self-glorification. But each time he answered the tempter with no. But he didn't trust in his own word to say no. He trusted in the Father's word, the Scriptures. And he said to the tempter things like, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." Another time he said no by stating, "It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve only him." And he turned his back on the tempter. That path led him into the midst of the suffering of the world. Broken bodies, broken spirits, broken relationships, a broken nation. Ultimately, on that path, he was joined to the city of God, Jerusalem, even up to the Temple Mount, where passion for his Father's house consumed him. From his Father's house, further up to an upper room. When he was gathered there with his closest of disciples, knowing that the end of the journey was near, the destination was close, he got up from the table. He took off his outer clothes, and he wrapped around himself a towel. The uniform of a slave. And he, Lord of all creation, went and started to kneel at the disciples' feet and to wash them. And when Peter saw what he was about to do, Peter was offended and said, Lord, no, you will never wash my feet. Jesus said, unless I wash your feet, you have no part of me. So Peter relented, and Jesus continued that gentle ministry of washing their feet. He washed big burly Peter's feet, broad and flat. He washed the delicate feet of John, James, Philip, Nathaniel, Thomas. But the way I see it, he spent more time at one disciple's feet. He knelt that basin of water at the feet of Judas. Judas, the one that Jesus had poured his life into for 3 years. Judas, the one who Jesus had chosen. Judas, the one who Jesus loved. Jesus knelt there to serve him, to wash him. Knowing what Judas was about to do, knowing that Judas would not receive it, knowing that Judas would turn it and sell his own master, his teacher, for 30 pieces of silver, knowing all of that, Jesus still tenderly washed Judas's feet. With heart broken, he pours out his whole self there at the foot of Judas. Tears streaming, heart throbbing, caressing and washing and loving